Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making time to come to attend this training session this day, 11th of March, 2025, week 4, module 4, day 1. And as you know, we've actually covered three very rigorous weeks through which we actually did an introductory session on the 13th of February when we actually started this journey. That was a Thursday. And then thereafter, the week that follows, we started off every Tuesday, 11:30 GMT, and every Thursday, 11:30 GMT, with module 1, which of course was going to market. And then we covered again module 2, which was about product requirement for local, regional, and international markets. Then eventually we moved to module 3, where we spoke about developing your competitiveness and pricing strategy. Now, this is now a build-up to today's session, where we shall actually be covering financial planning. And you will actually appreciate that this is now where the rubber then meets the road, because we've actually touched on the various aspects of market access. But without money, we are not going to talk about market access, because we need to access that market and be able to bring back money to our various organizations. Yeah, for those of us who attended module 3, remember Edwin, touched largely on break-even points and a bit of some pricing strategy. Now, today we are actually zero in on financial planning proper, because this is now the bottom line. Every other organization is actually there to market its products, and not just market at a profit. We did emphasize this. And therefore, today, I'm glad to welcome all of us to this session where we shall actually be focusing on financial planning today, marking the last journey as we move towards the end of this trading market access, session 1 of 2025. And therefore, at this particular juncture, I would wish to please invite my colleague, Mr. Edwin Alum, to please take us through the remaining session. Thanks so much, and most welcome, Edwin.
Thank you very much, Tom, and thank you very much, Abraham, for taking your time. Now, I don't know if you've been able to go into the Moodle platform. Have you been able to go to the e-learning platform?
I'm not at the this platform, e-learning platform. Sorry? I've not registered for the I've not registered for the platform.
Okay, I think you should register, because we are getting to the end of the training, I believe, on Thursday, the formal part at least. But for you, like Tom was saying, for you to be able to get the certificate and all that, you probably will need to register. Okay. And in registering, then you'll be able to go through the modules. Most of the resources are there. Most of the PowerPoints are there. The recordings for these sessions are there. The quizzes are there that you need to complete and all that. So it would be important to go in and register, unless you have a challenge. Is there a challenge that you're facing maybe?
At one time, I was trying to register, but I had some challenges, and that's why this I had some typing the logging in.
There were some instructions that even Tom had sent. So just follow it up and then try and log in, because it would be important, because majority of some of the quizzes that we are not taking here are in there, and it's important for you to do it. I see Christine has also joined us. Christine, welcome very much.
Thank you. I was having network challenges, and I had to drive to somewhere where I can get network.
No problem. So you have not really missed much. We just did a quick introduction, recap for last time. And without taking much of your time, we're just going to dive into the financial planning for today and Thursday. That's what we're going to be doing, and forecasting. And once we do that, we'll probably be able to know how to, how to plan yourself, because most people say I'm doing a plan or a budget or want to forecast into the future, but they do not know how to go about it. And that's what this session is going to be about, at least for this Tuesday and for for Thursday to come. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. You can let me know if you can see it, but let me just bring it up. Visible?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see. Yeah.
Great. So we don't need to go through all that. The recap we've done, the objectives here, basically, you understand your break even. I think we did that partially last week, and it would be great to just go through it again, and hopefully, Christine, now you're quite knowledgeable on this, or at least you can be able to do a simple example, of course, to understand some of the sales channels that we had. And you develop your strategy based on the financial plans that are there. Financial planning, by way of introduction, usually is just estimating the costs and the prices and the revenues and basically the inflows and outflows to enable you to either to see whether you'll be making a profitable business or not. Estimation of costs, setting of prices to succeed in the market. And between, I don't know any of you if you've ever done any sort of financial planning. Have you, Abraham?
Financial planning.
Yes.
Yeah. I do financial planning.
How did you go about it, if you don't mind, just in 1 minute?
Okay. The financial planning, sir, one of the most important is to draw a budget. To draw a budget, what you are going to spend, what you are going to earn, and then I mean your income, and then the expenditure. So that at the end of the day, you know how the business is moving, whether you are running at a loss or you are running at a gain. So budgeting is one of the most essential things when you are doing financial planning. And that's what I can say for the financial planning.
Excellent. Actually, budgeting is part of financial planning, you're right. Actually, it's the core of it if you look at it broadly. And for you, Christine, have you ever done financial planning before?
Yes, I've done a lot of financial planning, but it hasn't been formalized, like understanding exactly what am I doing. This is a financial plan. We have just set targets. This is what we're going to sell. This is how much tobacco we're going to grow. These are our cash flow projections. Our budget comes like this, but it's all been random, to be honest. I've never done proper financial planning.
No, excellent. Just seems like you've been doing it, maybe not as formal as it should be. It does not need to be, I mean, you don't have to go all the way and be very formal, though your accounting team probably needs to do that. But you need to have the knowledge to forecast how are you going to be planning for the future. And you're talking about how much tobacco to grow. What was that information based on? Was it the market? Was it your feeling? Was it just the need for expansion? Those are some of the things that you need to consider and put it in assumption form so that these assumptions will form the basis of you building the model, because that sort of model or that sort of planning is what now informs then it informs whether these assumptions are going to be true as time goes by. For example, if you get to, let's say, year number 2, and you're done a projection for 5 years, and in year number 2, you've already blown out your targets for 5 years, then the financial planning and projection at that point in time needs to be revised, because either some assumptions were understated or there was extraordinary events that took place that you could not foresee. Conversely, if something happens that is very, very detrimental, we are talking about COVID, we are talking about drought, we are talking about maybe, like in this case right now, we are having challenges taking goods via the Red Sea, then of course, it will change some of the assumptions and it needs to be revised. If the Red Sea still persists, obviously, the assumptions of, let's say, lead times need to change, the assumptions for costing for freight needs to change, and all those things. So yes, you're right, but as you go along, you probably need to start familiarizing it, and let's hope that as we go through this session and the next Thursday, we're able to get into it and get out of the other side a bit knowledgeable. So the first fundamental of financial planning is the price. And
Yes.
from last time we talked about how do you come up with the pricing. The pricing is not just, I'll sell this because Abraham is selling this for X, Y, Z. But what happens is for pricing is you need to take a lot of things into consideration. What is the costing of producing a unit of material? If you remember the unit costing that we were talking about last time, what is the demand for this product? What is how much supply do we have? And then what margin are we looking for? How do we want to position ourselves in the market? And all the other factors that we talked about. How do you allocate the costs that are fixed, for example? How do you allocate obviously the ones that are variable, it's very easy. The ones that are direct are very easy. But the ones that are fixed, for example, you're paying for insurance. How do you allocate that to one particular item that you're selling? And this is what I had said. If it is, let's say, you have a lump sum, then over time, let's say 3 months, you're able to know this is the average we are producing, this is the average electricity we are using, this is the average bill we are using in 3 months. Then you use that as a basis for assumption that in the next foreseeable future, our monthly electricity bill, for example, is going to be X amount. Why? Based on this X assumption that in the last 3 months we've averaged X number of products, and this is the amount of electricity that we've used. Of course, if the price of electricity goes up, you adjust it. And a financial planning also gives you a guideline to what you need to be doing, or rather how you're doing as you go along. So that at the end of the year, if you've attained 100% excellent, good, it means your assumptions were spot on, you are very good at planning. If, however, you are way off either in the positive or in the negative, then it means you need to refine your planning, and there are many reasons why some of these things may happen the way they happen.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the cost without us getting involved too much. We talked about the pricing, common pricing errors. We have talked about if you're too cost-oriented, then again, you might end up, yes, you've done excellently on that, and then you realize that in a bid to put everything in, you may have analyzed yourself into paralysis, so to speak. You have to revise your prices often. The prices that were there in 2023 cannot be the ones that are there now, unless you're in a market where there's a lot of stability in prices. But that would be very strange because there are factors like inflation, there are factors like cost of capital that have gone up, cost of labor. So again, competition in the market, some of the substitute products coming in, those should again, of course, be reflective in the price that you come up with. Obviously, we've talked about marketing mix, it being one of the most important one. And even as you do your pricing, for example, when you're doing your marketing mix strategy, buy one, get one free. The one that is free.
Only program.
Sorry?
Okay, all right.
Okay, Abraham, if you can go on mute, would be great, because I think I can hear you speaking to somebody else.
I think, sorry, let's continue.
Yes, you can just mute yourself so that it becomes easier. So what we're talking about is in the marketing mix, for example, if you're talking about buy one, get one free, even in your plans. This buy one, get one free is excellent, but you need to factor in the cost of the free one. How are you going to recoup it? So that what you are selling based on the promotion is able to cover the cost of the promotion and make you the profit that you wanted to make. So these are some of the things you must consider. You cannot vary, do not vary enough for different marketing situations, obviously. You'll find that you have the same product, maybe you sell it to the UK and to Germany. And what you sell in the UK is different or to what you sell in Germany, the price point, for various reasons. The consumer, the demographics, the cost of transportation might differ. Some of the costings involved might differ. And if we continue that one, we talked about break-even point. I don't know if you remember this one. Christine, do you remember break-even point? Would you describe it in a nutshell?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
It's the
please go ahead.
The break-even point is the point where your costs and revenue almost level out.
Not almost, they exactly level up. So that's when you say, you know what, now if then the total, if we keep going making more revenue beyond this point, then you're going to get a profit.
Okay.
If not, then it's a loss. So break-even point is where the revenue and the total costs intersect, or where they are equal. No profit whatsoever. And we have done the calculation on how many units you need to produce to break even. I don't know if Abraham remembers that. And then if not, we are going to show you probably in the next few slides how to do that. We talked about direct versus indirect costs. Direct costs being those are completely directly related to the product. Indirect costs being those that are not directly related. Like just giving you an example of rent, insurance. I mean, you cannot just produce something outside. There must be a building that you're using. There must be energy that you're using. So they may not be directly related, but they affect the production of these products. Most often than not, the indirect costs tend to be fixed. I'm not saying all of them. So, and we had talked about in the previous slides that we need to prorate and to estimate them so that we come up with the unit costs for we make the indirect costs, we come up with the unit costs that goes into making of a product. Of course, we have talked about fixed and variable costs, fixed being those costs that do not change with production. E.g., we had given Christine her salary as an example. Her salary does not change even if she produces 1 pack of Munch 2, or if she produces 1 million of them. The salary remains the same, at least for a certain amount of time, probably 1 year. If she revises her salary upwards next year, it will stay like that until it is revised again. Variable costs, on the other hand, vary when production changes. We talked about production materials, stickers, labeling. We talked about direct labor, the ladies and gentlemen working during a shift, and they are determined by the amount of orders that you have. If the orders go down, the number of boxes go down, the number of products go down, then obviously the number of these gentlemen and ladies go down as well. And consequently, the costs for these ones go down as well.
Yeah.
So between the two of you, Abraham, would you give us because we are just not many, so we are just going to go through it. What direct costs do you know? We could use the Padlet, but we have few, so let's just engage. Give me an example of direct costs.
Okay. Direct cost is
in your company.
like,
you can use your company. What do you, as you do your costing, what do you consider as direct cost?
The direct cost is sort of like the machines you use.
Is it the machine cost or the machine hours cost?
Direct cost. Because
no, I'm asking.
then,
is it the cost of the machine?
Yeah, it's the cost of the machine. The cost of the machine is a direct cost. And then
how so? Please explain. How so?
Purchasing the items to, assuming you are doing I'm doing like a dry mango. I have to buy so buying the this is also a direct cost.
Yes.
Paying for transport is a direct cost. And then buying other items to enable you to do the process, they are all direct costs. So the direct cost.
Okay, so what you're saying is everything that you're buying that directly goes into the production of the dried mangoes is direct costs.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you give me an examples of indirect costs in that operation?
Okay, one of them is the fruit you buy. Then the labor involved. Then transportation.
No, but you talked about transportation being direct cost.
Yeah.
Why would transportation also become indirect cost?
Because when you buy the items, you have to transport them to probably the processing point. So you pay some cost of transportation, or you buy fuel. Even if you buy fuel, it's part of the direct cost.
No, I'm talking about indirect cost. You're not talking about direct cost.
Indirect cost is about the indirect costs are like wages and salaries are indirect costs.
Wages for which staff members? The guys producing or the admin staff and all that?
Yeah, and then electricity and the rest.
No. Abraham.
Yes.
Wages for which staff members?
Wages like so if the person is not on salary, I mean the like casual laborers, casual workers, you pay them wages.
The casual workers you're talking about, are they the ones working directly to dry these mangoes?
Yeah. They
then
are
how
involved.
How can their wages be indirect?
Okay, okay. So as you said, like tax components, insurance, and all those, they are all indirect costs.
Yeah, what I talked about, salary that is indirect is salary like yours, Abraham.
Yeah.
The company pays you whether or not it produces the dried fruit, whether the company is operational, in and out of season, you get a salary. I'm just giving an example. That is an indirect cost.
Okay.
And in the case of the wages for the direct guys involved directly in the production, that becomes a direct cost because it is called what is it called? What do you usually call it? It is the labor direct. In fact, at some point we call it direct labor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a difference between the labor they offer, the casual laborers offer, and the ones that you offer. The one that you offer is regardless of how many dried mangoes are produced. The one they offer is dependent on the number that is supposed to be produced. And it fluctuates by the amount produced at any given time.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Christine, any examples on your side of direct and indirect costs?
For me, my direct costs are seed, fertilizer, chemicals, irrigation, water, transportation, all my permanent labor force. Those are my direct costs. And my indirect costs, for now, we just have contract workers and insurance.
Do you pay any form of rent, any form of taxation?
No, I don't pay rent because it's our farm. It's my parents' name.
You don't pay even rates to the government?
We pay annual rates to the government. Yes, we do.
Exactly.
And National Employment Council and
absolutely.
NASA.
Absolutely. Now you're getting it. If you're doing your financial planning and you forget those costs, what do you think will happen?
Are those direct or indirect?
Whatever it is that you leave outside, what do you think will happen? If you, let's say, forget the costs or the rates that you pay to the government for your own land, yes, the land is yours, but if you forget to put in the cost of the rates, land rates to the government, what do you think will happen to your financial forecasts, let's say your profit?
It won't be a true representative of my actual profit. So these would
Absolutely. It will
be my
show a high
direct
profit.
costs.
It will probably show that you have a high profit, and you might be tempted sometimes to lower your prices thinking that your margins are quite great, but you are not covering all the costs. So the reason why we're doing the exercise is mostly we tend to remember the costs that are obvious, and then we forget the ones that are not obvious.
Are
We
those
forget
direct or indirect costs?
they are indirect costs, like
They are
land rates. They are
indirect.
indirect costs because you will pay those land rates whether you're producing that year or not. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the things I wanted us to quickly look at, and before we now go into the calculation of the break-even point of a business. Abraham, do you remember this, or were you there? Were you not there? Do you remember how to calculate the break-even point of a business?
Yeah, that I wasn't around, but I have a knowledge about fixed costs, then gross margin. I mean, and that you use it to determine how profitable the business is going.
Yes. So now we are not looking at the profitability. We're looking at if you're making your financial plans, and like Christine was telling us, they are planning to plant more acreage of tobacco. What will happen is she needs to determine how many acres or how many plants or how many kilograms, basically how many units does she need to plant for the farm to break even, or for the farm to make sense. How many trees of avocados, how many trees of mangoes do you need to plant in your farm? You have a 12-acre farm,
Okay.
Abraham, yes?
Yeah,
You have a
exactly.
12-acre farm.
Yes.
Have you ever done a break-even analysis for the farm?
No, not at all.
Yes, so these are the kind of things that are practical that can help you. So that if you are to add, let's say 1 acre, you already know that for 1 acre to break even, you must at least produce X number of kilograms of mangoes. You must produce them at Y price so that you're able to break even. So that if you're going into acquisition of land or leasing of land to expand your production, then you already know that if, for example, I'm going to get maybe 5 more acres, then I need to at least plant X number of trees. Obviously, that one you cannot determine a lot of. I need to produce X number of kilograms per tree for it to make sense. And break even is not just about even acreage. You can even do break even per tree. You can do break even per factory line. If you have 2 lines, are those enough? If you have 4 lines, are those enough? You need to consider how many kilograms does it need to process for the machine to make sense. Should you lease or should you buy? Based on the calculations that you make. And those are the things we are talking about in this case, where if you are to go and calculate the break-even units, then it will the fixed cost that we had talked about over the gross profit margin. The gross profit margin is simple, the price minus the variable cost, or the sales minus the variable cost.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes sense. Any questions up to there?
I think I get you.
Yes.
I'm okay.
So we look at a few examples of break-even, because if you get this very well, then it will help you in a lot of decision making and in a lot of planning. You will realize that probably further acquisition beyond a certain point will not help you or will not add much to you. So those are some of the things that will gain your decision. I would like us just to listen to this guy. Maybe he will explain it better than I did, but he's talking about calculating the break-even point. So have a listen, please. Sorry about the advertisements, but it's free YouTube. Can you hear him?
No, I'm not. The voice is not coming.
And now,
There's a place
No
you need
voice
to
still?
use to actually share it. It is not shared at the moment.
no, it's not shared. I shared
It
this
is
one
not shared.
on. I thought I could play. Thought I could play it directly. Let me see if we can share this on the whatever. What I'll do is I'll actually play it. I can play it on my own. Is that better? Can you hear him?
No
No?
noise is coming. No.
Okay. I think you cannot use the same audio for sharing and for that. So, long story short, he's talking about what I just explained. There's
Okay.
nothing else. There's nothing else he's doing that I'm not saying. All what he's talking about is the exact the explanation on the break-even points. What I'm saying is, again, if maybe you don't understand, this is a good resource to go and look at. It's called Accounting University. It's usually very basic, easy steps to follow for you or for your accountants, or for you actually just to know about it, especially as an accountant. So again, you'll see a lot of articles. I don't know if you can see on the right. You can see a lot of articles here where you can, contribution margins. Forget about the South Africa, and there's a lot of break even the most complex one.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, especially if you go to this handle, Accounting University, they have very basic stuff on subjects like this. So that we don't belabor the point, I think I've already shown you where to get it. And
It's
we
actually
just keep to the
available on the
next.
Moodle platform, Edwin, for those of us who will have
Yes.
registered.
Yes, so that's what I was telling them. Some of the resources that we look at here are available in the Moodle platform. You can actually watch it in there directly, but also it's very nice if you go to some of this. Everything nowadays is on the fingertips, in the YouTubes, they're everywhere you want to. So you don't need to struggle, but in case you do, then probably these are some of the sites you can go to, or you can write to us, or you can go to the Moodle platform and you'll probably get the answer. So this was an exercise that was supposed to be done, and I think we can still do it. We don't have groups. So this is an example of what we were talking about. We have fixed costs in total is 5,000. Unit variable cost is 75.
Okay.
Total variable cost is 81,000. The unit price is 522.
Okay.
The gross profit margin price minus the unit variable cost is 447. So how, Mr. Abraham, how do you think he's getting to this 11.1119?
Okay.
Based on the formula that I showed you.
Yeah, so here the fixed cost is 5,000.
Absolutely.
And then the gross margin, the gross profit
Yes.
margin is 447,000.
Yes.
So when you divide it by 5,000, that you get around 11.90.
Exactly. There's no other stories. There's no other way to do it. So we're talking about the break-even units that he needs to produce at 11. If he
Yeah.
produces less than 11, he will make a loss. If he
Okay.
produces more than 11, he will make a profit.
Okay. Okay.
That is
Yeah.
the simplest way to explain that. Christine,
Okay.
you understand that?
Yes.
Excellent. So we'll look at about the rise of the internet as a sales channel. I think this is something also that we had looked about earlier, and we'll of course go through it quite quickly. We talked about online groceries attracting retail giants like Amazon. We have now, I don't know about your countries, but here in Kenya, most of the retail companies have gone and developed their own applications. So you can sit in the comfort of your house and order your food or order your groceries or retail items online. You don't need, and they will deliver it to your house. And if we look at some of the statistics in Europe, where online e-commerce is the fastest growing retail market in Europe, you will see that in the UK only it's about 30% or a third of the retail sales. The retail sales now in the UK, this was 2023, but now it is around, it's still the same, around 31%, but it's 31% of 599 billion pounds. Back then, I think it was what, 300 and something billion. So you can imagine this growth is massive. It's not a small one. And it is something that I don't know how you are going to position yourself, but it is not something that you want to miss out. The beauty with it is that you can set the price. You can see the prices of your competitors because they can no longer hide it. You can see what is being sold directly. And you can copy and paste the things that are good and you can avoid the things that are bad. And of course, inflations and all that, people became a bit more price sensitive. So you want to save money, then you go online. Online, you don't need to travel to go and buy anything anymore. Nowadays, you order things from all manner of countries and they will come to you. You order them online. You can order machinery online. You can order as big stuff online, small stuff online. There are people from South Africa who are making constructions of greenhouses here in Kenya, in Menengai. And they were contacted via Instagram. It's very strange, but it's the way it is. And obviously, it keeps growing, so you cannot ignore it. AI is another tool that is really useful. AI can be used to do market research. And as you're doing all these things, the reason why we are talking about this and repeating it, when you're doing your financial planning, there's something called the total available market. If you're going to be targeting, let's say, the entire Europe, the total available market right now is probably the 599 billion I'm talking about. But you're not going to be selling to all the 400 million consumers in Europe. And then you'll have to narrow down. Then you say, okay, fine. My focus markets, I believe, Christine, you said yours goes mostly to the UK, if I'm not wrong. Then you'll find that then you come down to, from the total available market, you come down to the serviceable market. So what market can you actually service? Then you go down from that, then you come down, you even narrow it down further. Supermarkets. What is available? So there is it's called the concept of term, and then some, and then some. And those are things I'll look at in the next class on Thursday so that we're able to be familiar with it. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Abraham.
Hello.
Have you ever heard of term, sum, and sum?
No, I've not heard of them.
Yeah, so those are some of the things I plan. We can look at them. That way you'll be able to understand how to determine the total available market and all that. We have done this for a different class. I don't know if you can still see my screen. But let me just share it with you. Here we are. This is what I was talking about.
Okay.
When you're estimating your sales and the cost of sales, there is a total addressable market.
Okay.
The total is everything. Then there is a serviceable available market, the portion that you can acquire based on your business. There is a portion you can acquire, you cannot acquire all of it. Then the percentage of that acquirable market that you can realistically capture is the obtainable one. So you move from the total addressable, then to serviceable available, then to serviceable obtainable. Basically, total, available, and obtainable. That is the easiest way to look at it. But I don't know if you have any questions on this one, because this forms the basis of your planning. You cannot say that I have a plan when I don't even know what I can obtain. Abraham, any question? Christine?
No, all good.
It's
Okay,
okay.
great.
Mm.
So there's a way to calculate it. I don't know if you can see the screen. I'll just
Yeah.
take you through it quite
Yes, we
quickly.
can see.
You can
Good.
see everything.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing here. Here we are.
Calculating time.
You
Cost
can
in the
say
market.
that's exact. I'm even giving you the breakdown. Obviously, we'll talk about it more next week. I just wanted you to see the accounts in the market is determined by the market research. So market research is what we talked about in module 2, where you have a lot of links were shared by Tom on where you
Okay.
can do your research, which market is doing what, and you can now figure out, okay, fine, these are the guys I need to deal with. And then, annual contract value, what is it? Historical data, average purchase per account over the year, how much are these people purchasing every time per year? So for a market of 7,000 people with an average spend of 2,000, the total market is basically 7,000 times 2,000, which is a 14 million. So that's the way you do it. If you look at the consumers, let's say in Europe, and maybe their spending power is £1,000, and there are 400 million people, we can argue that then the total market value is 400 million times 1,000. That's how we end up with the 599 billion. I'm just making up the number so that for ease of understanding. Is that clear for the both of you?
Yeah.
Good. Then when you come to
Yes.
the achievable is slightly smaller than the total. So the target segment, so there is a particular segment of the total and the annual contract value. Remember, our annual contract value was, in our example, the purchasing power per consumer in Europe, which still remains 1,000. But there is a percent of the 7,000 that we are targeting. So that percent of the 7,000, let's say there are 4,000 only, they reside in the area we want to serve. So what we do is, for us to get the SAM, or serviceable achievable market, we just now take the percent of the TAM, which is 4,000 times 2,000. Now suddenly the market, whatever we are talking about as achievable, has reduced from 14 million to 8 million. You see how that comes by?
Yeah. Okay.
Good. And then now you go to, what can I obtain out of this achievable market? So it will be the achievable market, a percent of what is the percent of the achievable market. So if the achievable market was 8 million, like we had calculated in the previous example, yeah, and 5% is what you are, or realistically, projecting to achieve, then actually now we've moved from 14 million to 8 million to 400,000. You see how it comes down? Yeah, so if you can even do this on your own market in Ghana or in Zimbabwe. In this case, if Zimbabwe, the total fresh produce market is, let's say, $1 million. I'm just making up the number. And you're saying, you know what, I need to at least, so that is the total in our case, based on what we're talking about. That is the TAM. The TAM is $1 million. What
Okay.
is achievable? Let's say Christine is dealing in Monch 2, other peas and tobacco. Then you check out of the total $1 million, what is the total tobacco and Monch 2? In your case, Abraham, you will check the total market, yes, still remains $1 million in Ghana, but what the achievable market for mangoes, what is it? But because you cannot obtain the whole achievable market, you cannot be the only person growing mangoes, or in Christine's case, you cannot be the only person growing Monch 2 or tobacco, then you go and say, you know what, I plan or I project to capture 10% of this market. Then you go ahead and calculate 10% of what is achievable, because the 1 million in an example even includes flowers and all that. If you're not dealing with those things, then just remove them in terms of achievable market, because you're not even playing in that. And then you say, okay, in this one that is achievable, 10, I want to be at least 2% of the market share. I want to gain 5% of the market share. Then that's how you know, okay, fine, I need to play in these numbers. And I've just shown you how to calculate.
Okay.
Any question up to that point?
Yeah, understood.
Go ahead. You have understood. Christine, any question? Christine is fine, or she's on mute. She's going to take water. Okay, we'll just continue. So I branched off of this so that we're able to check how do you estimate the sales. Remember, we are talking about financial planning. Financial planning, you have to plan the price. If you plan the price, then you're planning for the sales. So sales include quantity and the price. And some of the way to determine this is the term, sum, and sum. And this, we have talked about market research, which is a customer identification, and marketing using industry trends. You talked about competitive assessments. Remember, was it last week, Tom, or was it the week before? The assignment was to do the competitive assessment analysis. I don't know if between Abraham and Christine they've done it. So these things all tie up. There was nothing here that is off. Tom, you remember, yes? It was a competitive assessment analysis that was to be done.
Yeah, very well so,
If you
very well
need
so.
to
And I
know.
think
Yes.
it is actually better they finish up that assignment because there is that interconnectivity.
Absolutely. Then obviously then the product and consumer types, we've given you examples within your own countries. So you can use research, there's all manner of links you can use. So we don't want to talk about budgets for now. We'll go back to our, sorry, today we're jumping from one slide to another, but nothing to worry about. So last time we had talked about the rise of internet, and we had talked about, there is collaborations that you can use. There is, this chart simply shows you can see how it is in the Netherlands. Sorry about that. You can see the UK, and you can see even smaller countries like Montenegro at 31%. It means it's picking up pace, and you cannot ignore e-commerce anymore. So, like we told you, suppliers will be opening their own offline stores. And that is already happening even here in Kenya, and I'm sure in your different countries. We have talked about artificial intelligence, which is taking over. These are some of the ways of gathering information even as you do your planning. We have talked about this, who is shopping online. Abraham, would you guess people aged 75 and over who is shopping online?
Come again.
Would you guess how many people are shopping online and they are over the age of 75?
Yeah. In our area here, it's between the youth between 20 and 40.
No, I'm asking about the 75. In your area, how many people aged over 75 are buying or purchasing things online?
Oh, that percentage will be around let's say 30%.
30%, that's very high. Those are very literate and 75-year-olds in Ghana. What of the 55 to 75 age group? What is a guess? What do you think? How many consumers in the 55 to 75 age group in your country are, shopping online?
It's normally, the shopping online is people who they are educated people. They are educated people. So it all depends on the level of education within that sector, because an illiterate cannot purchase somebody online. So
but an illiterate can be any age. That's why I'm asking. Typically, you know your country well. Between 55 to 75, how many people do you think in that age group are shopping online?
Between 75 to this, about 10%. Let me 10%, yeah.
That is very interesting because you say over the age of 75, they are 30%. But between the age of 55 to 75, they're 10%. It means the older people are shopping more than the slightly younger people.
Oh, no. It's the vice versa. It's the vice versa. It's the youth that are already engaging in online shopping than any other disease. So the youth...
exactly. So in that case, the ages between 40 and 55, what would you estimate the percent to be?
That would be about 50%.
And 20 to 40?
20 to 40 will be around 60%.
60%. Christine, what about you? What about you, Christine? In Zimbabwe, what would you estimate people shopping online over the
For
age
me,
of 7? Yes.
I would say 2%.
2% for over 75?
2% of those aged over 75. Yes. And I'd say 8% for aged 55 to 75. And I would say 40% of those 40 to 55. And then 60% of those 20 to 40, because not all of them can afford the resources to be shopping online, like the laptops and the phones, and at age 20 to 40 in my country.
Yeah.
So it's 60% and not like high as 80 or 90%. But if they were privileged to afford the rural, some of the rural population, then it would be higher. But I think it would be 60.
Yes, I agree with you. Different countries will have different results. And you'll be shocked if you look at your country, Zimbabwe, you are more of a, despite the challenges you're talking about, you're more of a modern retail sort of country. Modern retail to mean that majority of the population know about a supermarket or know about a hypermarket. And you will be shocked that you probably, Nigeria, which is a much bigger economy, is not a modern retail country. And you'll find that only 10% of the population shop in the supermarket and in the hypermarket. Wow. So there are a lot of different factors, but if we come to online shopping on average, these are some of the results. And obviously between 20 and 40, you guys are almost spot on, aged between 40 and 55 also. But you will see that between 55 and 75, it's not that low. It's actually quite high. And most of the people getting scammed are usually in this age group.
Yeah.
Yes, but over 75, it's very difficult to find people shopping online in this group. Of course, back then, but of course also in different countries, different things. But this is the average based on the research that was done. So, that was just a good exercise for us to check that this is not a small thing anymore. Okay. So people are buying things on eBay, on Amazon. People are, like you talk about rural population, Christine, but you will be interested to know that even things like USSD, which does not need to use internet and can use the most basic of phones, USSD is used for this kind of purchases. It might not be online in the strictest sense of the word, but USSD is where you dial, let's say, *XYZ# and then you have a menu, and then you select from the menu. People are buying airtime like that, yes or no?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have
Even
it.
in
It's
Zimbabwe.
called EcoCash,
Absolutely.
and a lot of people use it. Yeah, then in that
You,
case, yeah.
you might even be shocked, it's almost the whole population that uses it. Is that not online, shopping online for your airtime, sending money from your mobile handset to my mobile handset without using even the internet? Isn't that the same thing?
I think what they use it is for banking and transferring money, which is purchasing things actually. Yeah, because you can buy
Yes.
with EcoCash. Yeah, so it is. So then in that case, we'll push it to 80% of 20 to 40 from.
Actually, these averages were not brought down by African countries. You'll be shocked in Kenya, everybody is probably using their phones to pay everything. It is where the technology came from.
Yeah.
So it's so prevalent that I honestly don't remember the last time I carried cash on me. Maybe Tom carries cash. Tom is a liquid gentleman. I don't remember. And when this is how bad it was that when the currency changed, we had new notes printed, I believe, was it 2019 or 2018, 17, thereabouts. I took time to know which denomination has what color because I have the mobile money and I can just use it to pay for everything, order anything, pay whatever it is, do all the transactions, mobile banking and all that. So by the time we are getting to 2025, I can count the number of times I've handled cash. And I'm sure majority of the people in Kenya are doing that. And that is part of the online, that is the financial banking products have gone almost entirely online. But of course, the retail products will take time. And these retail products are what we are saying, maybe not everyone is shopping for dresses, for food online, but it's going to start taking root as time goes by.
Yeah, exactly.
So whenever you're doing, let's say your planning, please consider this and consider this as a part of the assumption. What are we targeting? What demographic are we targeting? So that we know how to cost it properly and we know what resources goes to what.
Yeah.
And that's when we come to, of course, the decision-making tool probably will do this exercise in the next class. I suggest that because there are certain things I want us to go and do in terms of assignment, which is a break-even point. This break-even point, I had requested, and you can request this again, that you pick one product, and that one product, you do the costing per unit. You do that costing from A to Z, everything that is involved in the costing. Then we determine the price. Then we are able to calculate what the break-even point is for that product. I think that is something that we can go and do so that when we are doing things like the decision making and we are doing the decision trees and we are doing, let's say, are we projecting the financial statements, then we know what we are doing. Is that something that you can do, the both of you? Maybe you'll pick a product. What product are you going to pick, Christine?
I'm going to pick peas.
Yes, I suspected as much. If out of curiosity, last time we talked to you about minimum guaranteed price, how did you come up with that one? For your tobacco that was going on the floor. Is Christine still with us? Christine is on mute.
Yes, it's the minimum guaranteed price. The floors have started, they've opened. Their average price is $2.73. Their top price is $4.99.
Yes.
And the minimum price is 10 cents. So 10 cents is the minimum price. Average price is $2.73. And the highest price is $4.99.
How did you come up with a minimum price of $10, 10 cents, sorry?
It was automatically generated for us by the regulatory board.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying, next time, because of the quality, you had mentioned high quality, you had mentioned them requesting you to come in, not you asking to go, especially on day one. Day one. So what sometimes you can do is take advantage of people inviting you to determine a price below which you cannot go.
Well,
And
for
that
that
can
one,
be
I'm
done.
selling on
Yeah.
Friday. I'm selling it on
Okay.
Friday, this
Okay.
Friday. So I'll have the results on Friday. But I've told them I don't want less than $3.
Absolutely. So that is what we're talking about, the minimum guarantee. Minimum guarantee meaning whatever happens on the floor, $3, you must get $3. And this works also in the export market, whereby you can sell your products. There are different types of contracts. Minimum price guarantee typically involves you agree with your client that we are not going to go below, let's say, $4 or $3, regardless of how the market behaves. And then the customer goes and sells this product. Once they sell the product, then they give you the sales account. And if these sales account are above $3, you issue them with a debit note, and they send you the balance of the money. And if it goes below $3, then fine, I've gotten my $3, I'm fine. Then the loss, quote unquote, is picked up by the importer. And at this juncture, it's great to speak about selling on and this just touching on Incoterms, which you're probably going to read a lot more. There's a great link on the Moodle, which is the link on Incoterms, and it talks about things like FOB, free on board. It talks about CIF. It talks about cash, advanced cash, all manner of what is it called? All manner of contracts and Incoterms. It depends on how you negotiate. And maybe curiously, I would ask Abraham, when you set your prices to your customers, let's say outside the country, typically do you sell on FOB, CIF, CNF, advance, partial advance? What do you do?
No, you mean outside the country?
Yes.
And normally, yes, and outside the country. In fact, I have not involved myself in this export business, so I don't know much more about export market. Most of my produce have been sold locally.
Okay. So maybe, Christine, this is for you. What sort of contracts do you sell your peas to the UK with? Is it CIF? Is it FOB? And what is the reason and rationale for that?
It's normally FOB, free on board. That's just the nature of most of our contracts.
Excellent. There are many advantages and disadvantages to different forms of contracts. FOB gives you at least frees up your cash flow because the freight is paid for by the importer. Because freight has become very expensive, especially if it is air freight. If it is sea freight, also it's gone up from what it used to be. And you end up now sharing, quote unquote, the risk with the client. And I assume that there are clients who pay you partially in advance. Is that correct, Christine? Like they pay you 50% on documentation. Am I making the wrong assumptions, the right assumption?
Yes, they do that. Some will pay you 50%, some will pay 40, 60, some will pay everything after 3 months.
3 months.
Well, they would have said they'll pay within 30 days, but you actually don't get the money until after 3 months. So I've learned whenever I'm selling the peas to budget for 3 months salary. You're not going to expect that the money will come and you use it. You just wait until end of season.
I like what you have said. I have learned to budget for 3 months salary. So you see, the fact that you have somebody staying with your money for 60, 90, 120 days is a great eye opener when you're doing your planning or when you're doing your forecasting, that you cannot assume that payment on average is 30 days. And if you assume like that, you'll realize that you have a lot of credit sales at the end of the year or at the end of the season or in between, which you had not planned for. So it's a good thing that you have the sense of mind to note that there are clients who will take longer than whatever has been agreed. Tom, have you ever heard of this similar situation where you paid after 3 months? Tom is also an exporter, so let him tell us his perspective.
International business is a tricky issue. It basically depends on how you negotiate. And I'm glad we're actually talking on CIF, FOB, XWorks, and all these contracts. These Incoterms go hand in hand with terms of payment. I haven't gone up to 90 days, but I've done 60. Why have I done 60? I've done 60 days because during those days when we would sell off to Russia, from the port of Mombasa to the port of Novorossiysk is 28 days. And by the time the clients put the goods into their warehouse, that is added about 30 days. Then they start working on documentation. So later on, you realize that much as they're talking about paying you 30 days upon delivery, it actually goes beyond that. But yes, I think now that you're talking about costing, if I know that my client is going to pay me 90 days, I think it's not a problem. It depends on how you budget for that, because you are basically extending a financial facility, to this particular client. So therefore, if customer X is actually paying me after 90 days, I need to factor in the cost of that money that will actually be away, meaning he's going to pay slightly higher than that customer who will be paying me 30 days after arrival, or even better, that customer will actually be doing, say, 30% on document and then 70 days within 70% within 7 days of arrival. Now, this is my experience. My experience is that I've also got different customers. I've got customers who can do, depending on the negotiation, 70% upfront and 30% on documents, right? 70% upfront, 30% on documents. I also have customers who do 30% on documents and then 70% within 7 days of arrival. And then there are also customers who you will not even talk about FOB. It will be CIF, and then they pay 30 days after arrival. So the most important thing here is to negotiate and to carry out due diligence, because international business is actually a very tricky affair. I have also tried letter of credit in the past, but on a number of occasions, nobody is actually willing to tie his or her money. So those are some of the challenges that are actually out in the international market. But again, it is about relationship building. If you build a relationship over a very long time, then it is actually possible you can actually do business. But then it is a tricky affair because it ties out a lot of your money. So that is, briefly in terms of sharing my experience in, in the export business. Thank you.
So are you happier with cost including freight, or you want FOB?
I always settle for FOB. In my experience, it is cheaper for me because it doesn't tie up my capital. Actually, I have got only one client who is actually doing CIF. All the clients I deal with, it is about FOB. Now, remember, for air freight, FOB is actually a no-go zone. You got actually to pay for everything because within a few hours, the goods will actually arrive. For air freight, it is actually 100% CIF. There's nothing I can do about that. But for sea freighting, I've got only one client who's doing CIF, but for me, I feel it's not the best thing. But the beauty of it is that this client eventually pays. Now, this is where the budgeting and the costing comes in. This particular client must actually be that client who will be paying slightly more. Now, the discussion about minimum guaranteed price is also a very interesting one, because then it means you are actually in a position to recover slightly more, slightly above, your cost. But again, with the advantage that if the prices increase and move higher, you are actually likely to reap. But again, in my experience with minimum guaranteed price, I have actually never sold at a cost that I would actually say is below cost. I don't know, Christine, what's your experience? Have you tried minimum guaranteed price?
No, I've never tried it, but I intend on trying it this Friday.
Okay, all the best, all the best, Christine. So that's my experience, Edin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom. Abraham, you have a question? You can ask Abraham. It's a discussion.
Okay, I follow what you are saying. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you listen to what Tom is saying, what Christine is saying, when you're doing your costing now, for example, if it is 3 months, I'll just give you an example, and you need to be shipping every week a container. Then for you to determine the amount of money you need for you to ship for how many weeks are in 3 months, probably 12 weeks. Then you need to have money enough for 12 weeks before you get the first payment. So that is called the cash cycle. Your cash cycle is longer, the longer the payment period is. And you'll find that this cash cycle is now a very critical part of this because number one, if you're getting what is it called, financing from the bank, you're paying the bank monthly, then you need to factor in all this in your model or in your planning. And then you will notice that if it is 90 days also, then the risks also go up because anything could happen. The longer the period, the more the risks in terms of the more you're exposed to anything happening really. For example, those people who sold their goods in January 2020. January 2020, if you're not paid and everything was locked down by February 20th, then it means nothing is paid for the unforeseeable future. While if you get the 30% maybe on documents, you can say, fine, I've recouped part of my investment. And in the negotiation, as Tom is saying, it is very important that you have a mix of this client so that you are, what is it called? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. But the rule of finance usually is sell fast, collect faster. The faster you collect, the better. And there is a third rule of pay slowest, because that is what the customer is also practicing with you. They will sell, they will collect fast, but they will pay slow. That is just the rule of finance, and it falls under the cash flow management and accounting receivable management. And the accounting receivable management is what one of the key things as you're forecasting for your balance sheet. Sorry?
Can you come back on that? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is the rule of finance typically, as you're planning your sales for the year, is sell fast, F-A-S-T, collect faster, but you pay slow. What you owe, you pay slow. Slow meaning you take as many days as you can. Of course, you don't push it. But if you're collecting from Tom, if you're collecting from your customer, if you're collecting from whoever needs to pay you, the faster the better. Find ways of getting advance payments, negotiate yourself into partial payments, minimum price guarantees, and all that. And I have been able to negotiate. Tom was talking about air freight being fully CIF. All my customers buying via air are still paying for the freight. So, and air freight is very expensive, almost sometimes 3 times the cost of the product. And the moment they take that away from me, then I'm freeing up capital to be able to continuously ship for them the other items that they need for the next week and the next shipment. So when you're planning your balance sheet, for example, you don't want to keep a lot of accounts receivables. You don't want to sell and all you have done is credit sales. When I was being taught back when I was in corporate, I was told that a sale is not a sale until you receive the money. Yes, accounting terms, you would have recorded it as a sale, but it is only a sale after you've received the money. And that's why there are whole departments that are tasked with chasing money. It's called, people are having AR meetings, but you will never hear people having a lot of AP, it's accounts payables meeting, because it is what you owe to others. And you will dilly-dally, and that is what your customers do with you. I'm just telling you freely, because I was in finance for quite a while, is that they will dilly-dally as much as they can. That's why banks who offer loans, and the loans are their product, they will do anything for you to pay faster, because it is beneficial, less risky to them, and probably they get their interest faster. So this is the one thing that I wanted to make sure that we understand. And if because it affects your cash flow management, it affects your accounts receivable management, it affects your business itself, and you have to have limits to this. So if, let's say, that 90-day customer, you can only, what Tom maybe did not mention, much as they're paying a higher price, you can only sell to them up to a particular amount. So let's say maybe you can put a credit limit of, I will not sell more than 50,000 USD to this client. Or rather, I will make sure his sales account does not go above that. So that all your exposure is 50,000 at any given time with that client. But the guys who are paying in advance, you can keep supplying them because there will be a certain advance coming in, and you probably will realize that you don't have a lot of money exposed. So those are the things that you need to check: credit management, you need to check cash flow management, you need to check the costing, you need to check the Incoterms, you need to check the contracts that you're signing, and make sure that you have diverse contracts to help you in the planning of not just your business, but even in the collection. And if you do all this, you realize that the decision making, or rather, you realize that every decision you make then leads to the objective. And the objective of the business is just to make profit, unless you're a non-profit making organization. I really did not want to go beyond this part because most of the other things you've done is a supply chain model. But I would invite the questions from the floor, and then in the next session, we are just going to veer off, do a bit of budgeting, see how it's done after you've done your costing. We look at the budget components. We probably look at some of the uses of budget, and then I think we have closed, because budgeting is part of planning, as Abraham had rightfully told us as we were starting. But I wouldn't want to start on budgeting now, given that you have about 30 minutes to go. Unless, Tom, you feel different?
Yeah, you are right. You're right, Edwin. I think up to that point in time, we can perhaps maybe just go into Q&A, and then we close for the day.
Yeah, because the moment we start on a different one, we'll have to look at some of the forecasting methods and all that, then go into budgeting. And I thought that we should do that when we are fresh and having done the break even, because that is a very vital part of our exercise for the next session. So any questions from Abraham, from Christine? Happy to take any question.
Oh, no question for now.
Any question from Christine?
No, thank you. It was clear.
Great. I think now what we'll do is, again, we urge you take the next, whatever, 10, 20 minutes left. Please log into that Moodle platform, e-learning platform, go in there, probably do some of the assignments and this one that we just given, the exercise we just given, so that in our next final class, we are able to just wrap up in the right way, and we can have as much time to do some practical examples as possible. But for now, on my part, I think that is it. Unless, Tom, you have anything?
Nothing, Edwin. I think that's great. That's very good. I can only thank you so much for taking us through our financial planning, and equally appreciating the presence of our two colleagues for this great session. So yes, we are breaking off for the day. Remember the assignment. I think Edwin will be posting it on either WhatsApp or even on the email, so that we get to know, how to go about this assignment. And therefore, I think in the next session, we shall be handing over that exercise on break-even point. And just like Edwin has indicated, you will pick one product within the organization, work on it, and let's take a look at it collectively when we come back to the classroom on Thursday, this very same week, same time. Others, thank you so much for coming. For now, I can only say bye-bye and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.